Hello, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of Casual Chats. I am Patricia.
And my name is Aaron.
And today we're going to be talking about Zootopia 2, the 2025 animated film from Walt Disney Pictures.
Well, before we get into that, I think this is going to be like a Zootopia 2 review / we owe you an explanation. So, at the very beginning of November, towards the end of November, we had this whole, time planned. And you should probably imagine you've seen Happily Ever After, Rain of Bright and the Star Stealer, and you saw what we consider all our backup episodes that we have, just in case we ever fall into an emergency. And unfortunately, at the very beginning, the end of November, we fell into that emergency. So, I, just to let everyone know, I'm fine. The doctors have said I'm fine. I did end up in hospital. So, that wasn't a really great start to our Christmas.
No.
And then, after that, we did an entire month for Zootopia, and we were going to dedicate, we're only going to talk about Zootopia 2. We're going to talk about Zootopia, we're going to talk about Zootopia Plus, we're going to talk about a fan film for Zootopia, Return to Zootopia.
Yeah.
We asked you to check that out, by the way. And then we're going to do Zootopia 2 as the grand finale. We lost all of that.
It was all gone.
It was all gone. So, unfortunately, that's on us. In the new year, we're going to have a look at how we do our podcasts, going forward. And then, hopefully, we're never going to have a situation like this again. Because it's happened to us 3 times now. One was happening during Puppets Go Boom. Another's happened during, this whole Zootopia thing. And then, it's a good thing we recorded all those backup episodes. Just say that.
Yeah.
So, and then, when we're going to start doing it over again, we got this flu strain that has been going around and has been infecting everybody, and so we were out of commission for about 2 weeks.
Yeah, it was
to recover
awful.
from it. I was coughing for 3. It was awful.
And I ran a fever on and off.
Exactly. So, unfortunately, because of illness, because of things that just got in the way, technical problems, we haven't been able to give you the Christmas specials we would like to have done. By the way, we are going to do the end of year awards, so hopefully by the time you've watched this video, there'll be the end of year awards, and Zootopia 2 is going to be part of the end of year awards.
Yes, it is.
But unfortunately, it's ruined in regards to Old School Lane, it's ruined our Christmas, it's ruined our Zootopia month like we're going to do, and, here we are. So, it's just, all we can do is just say sorry for the fact that we're bringing you Zootopia 2, but we're not bringing you anything else Zootopia related. However, as of this podcast, we have been told Zootopia 3 is in the works. So maybe when we get to Zootopia 3, then we can start having a proper discussion about Zootopia. But unfortunately, Zootopia 2 is what we're going to have to put up with just for now.
Yeah, sorry, everyone. If you thought that we were going to do something similar to the podcast that we did last year, we looked at the first Moana movie, and then we went over to Moana 2. Or the podcast that we did back in 2019, where we took a look at both Frozen and Frozen 2 when Frozen 2 was in theaters. Yeah, unfortunately, we're not going to be able to do that here. We ran out of time, and we had technical issues. So, yeah, Zootopia 2 it is.
Yeah. So, anyway, we're going to talk about Zootopia 2 because, by the way, when we were planning to do it, we actually got a fan request for someone to talk about Zootopia 2. So, we're not going to leave you without. And so, this is it. And so, it's quite interesting because when Zootopia 2 was announced, I gotta be honest with everybody, I thought it wasn't going to see the light of day, because when we first had Zootopia, we don't really want to go too much into that review, because one of these days we will want to cover Zootopia itself.
Right.
And maybe, by the way, spoilers, by the way, for Zootopia and Zootopia 2 when we're in this discussion, so just, before going that, so you might want to go watch Zootopia 2, maybe you might want to go watch Zootopia, and then come back for this discussion.
Yeah,
so
that
just
do
for me.
that.
But, Zootopia obviously was about Judy coming out of, Bunny, what was it called? I forgot where she come from. I know you said Gummy Glen from the Gummy Bears, which is that's stupid. Yeah, it's Bunny Burrow, isn't it called?
Yeah, Burrow.
Coming out of Bunny Burrow, going to Zootopia, and to fulfill her dream of becoming a police officer. And so she did that, and now here we are in Zootopia 2.
Yeah.
And, but here's the thing about this. When Zootopia was at its height, and then there were talk about a sequel, the George Floyd protests happened, and Black Lives Matter became a thing, and I just thought, again, I don't know where Disney's head was at, during this really difficult time, but I just thought that, given the fact that Zootopia it takes place with, Judy Hopps as a police officer, and now Nick Wilde, also joining the force as well. And it's kind of like for around like law enforcement, and given the fact that that wasn't really like, the flavor of the month at that time, and also pretty much the flavor of the year, I guess you could say, at that point, I thought, Disney was never going to switch Zootopia again. I thought it was going to be a one and done deal, but we did finally get Zootopia 2, and I have to say, after watching this, I think it's definitely worth a lot of discussion, because I think this has been a hugely anticipated sequel. It's been a good couple of years since the first movie came out.
It's been almost a decade.
Almost a decade. Wow, I didn't think about it. Was it 2013 when the Zootopia first came out?
No, 2016.
2016. I should apologize, because it's been a while since we've had a Zootopia movie, and so there was a lot of hype going into this, and there was a lot of anticipation about where it was going to go. And so I guess this now is no longer about, I guess you could say, the message about discrimination and about relations between cultures. It definitely is still within Zootopia, and so Zootopia 2, however, takes a bit of a different look at this. So we are going to discuss right now.
All right then, yeah. So it takes place literally 1 week after the events of the first movie. And we have Judy and Nick going over a chase scene where they're going after these bad guys who stole a vehicle. And then they realize that, this particular person is also distributing illegal contraband. And so they disguise themselves and go over to the docks so that they can be able to capture this guy. And then there's this chase scene that's happening. And even though it turns out that they were able to, capture him in a way, even though that they were able to chase him long enough for the other police force to capture him, but they left a whole bunch of damage. And you have Chief Bogo basically telling them that they're not working together as a team properly. So he's taking them over to this group therapy so that they can be able to work properly.
By the way, just to give you some more context to this takes place a week after the first movie.
Yeah.
Really? A week?
A week.
I mean, we've had such a long time span since the first movie, and now we're going to say, this just takes place a week after everything else. It's kind of like the way Muppets Most Wanted was kind of introduced. It's kind of saying, this is the first movie that happened, now Muppets Most Wanted take place right after, the events of that movie. And,
Incredibles 2 also started off that way. It literally starts with the fight with the Underminer.
Which creates a continuity error with the video game of The Incredibles Revenge of the Underminer, but I digress. In regards to, I really don't like the idea, it just takes place a week after, the first movie. It's it would have had more weight, I think, to the storyline of them having, differences with the Force, differences with each other. If they said, okay, look, this has been going on now for months, and so I would have accepted, either 3 or 6 months to say that, Nick and Judy have been together, and there've been all these shenanigans that have been going on with them, trying to, fight crime in Zootopia. And so, it is successful, but at the end of the day, they cause a lot of damage. It's like those cop movies that you see where it's the hero says, okay, we accept that, you get results, but at the end of the day, you've destroyed half the city, and only given us a pittance in return. And so it would have been good if they said, look, case after case after case after case, we admit that you get the results that we want, but at the end of the day, you're leaving massive amounts of destruction in your wake, and now Zootopia is not overly happy with you. And so because of the week, because they kind of make it seem like, it's Nick Wilde and Judy Hopps, it's the team that brought down Mayor Bellwether, and which, they still have sort of that hype, but now it's all of a sudden that's sort of fizzled out within a week, which kind of that to me I felt is a bit that should be something that goes on, should be talked about for years, let alone it just disappears in the space of a week.
Yeah,
I don't know if they're just poking fun at the fact that 24-hour news cycle, once that is over, we move on to the next outrage, and maybe that's the short-termism of the minds of Zootopians in the social media era. I don't know, but it would have held more weight, in my opinion, if it's 6 months on, they're still doing cases, they're basically making a mess, and also they're arguing amongst themselves. They need help, and therefore, but the fact that it happens right off the bat after a week, I don't know. I just feel like it doesn't hold enough evidence to me to say let's just shove them into group therapy.
Well, I mean, I guess it makes a lot of sense in context for the story where it does take place in a week where now they are literally just a new duo of police officers who are coming together for literally the first time. I mean, the first time that this happened, I mean, they were able to work together, but in a way, it was just to prove a point of what happened. And I think that with it taking place a week later, they're still trying to figure themselves out, where you have Nick, who's kind of like the more realistic person, and Judy's the more optimistic person who wants to get everything done. Nick is a little bit more grounded and saying, like, we can't push ourselves too far with what we need to do. And Judy is the one who says, let's, screw that. We are able to, we need to be able to do all of these things so that we can be able to save the day. And from the first movie, you can see on why they think of this. We have Nick, who's been through so much prejudice throughout his life, where he was treated terribly because he is a predator. And then he was saying about the fact that, he had to be in the streets to hustle so he can survive. And then we have Judy, who, was raised lovingly by her parents, but she was always undermined because, well, she's a bunny. It's like, oh, a bunny can't be a cop. That's unrealistic. You're cute and you're adorable. You should be selling carrots like your family. And yeah, I mean, you can understand where they're coming from in both of those senses, in which Judy wants to prove herself, Nick wants to lay down. You can understand what they're going through.
Yeah, and I'll give you this. This is a really great setup, I think, for the entire movie, because you have a duo who operate on their own premises. Like, so Judy, like you said before, wants to prove herself. Nick just wants to be laid back about it. And, but I think the great thing about it is that Nick takes, like, what I like to do, where it's kind of like, I'm going to take one step back, I'm going to look at the entire situation. Judy goes in headstrong. Like, it's kind of like that. I'm sorry to make this, this is an awful reference to make, but, remember the Mortal Kombat cartoon series where, God. Like, Sonya basically would say, combat time. She would just throw herself in, and, like, that's what Judy Hopps sort of reminds me of this, but I would say that she's way better written than Sonya was in Mortal Kombat.
All the characters are written better than
Mortal Kombat. Yeah, I'm sorry. Again, I know it's a really bad example, but, it's like, but, Judy wants to go in and wants to get, shit done, I'm sorry for the swear, but I mean, like, the problem with that is that she is too enthusiastic about what she's done. She's not really thinking about the consequences of her actions. Whereas Nick is the total opposite. He wants to be hands off in this situation. He doesn't want to be, like, too involved in getting into massive amounts of trouble. The problem with that is that Nick ends up sort of kind of not really doing anything, ends up becoming really hands off, standoffish.
He just wants to get away and leave the problems to somebody else. He even goes back to Mr. Big, asking if they can be able to get fake identity so that they can be able to get out of Zootopia and then go over to this tropical island.
Actually, he didn't end up with Mr. Big, ended up kind of rescuing them in that way. And it was to be fair, it was Mr. Big's idea to say you should change your identity because, by the way, the main antagonists in this movie are lynxes. And so there's this family of lynxes that have always, dominated the territory of Zootopia and have even gone as far as to rewrite history. So, just to give the spoilers here, there was in Zootopia a race of snakes that lived within Zootopia, but then it was the one of the snakes that from hundreds of years ago created the environment wall. So it's the reason one of the snakes is the reason why everybody now can live in Zootopia, which sort of like it's kind of rewrites a little bit of like what was explained in Zootopia Plus, because it was kind of explained that Mr. Big was sort of like the reason why he brought the communities in and protected them all. And I don't know if it just happens that the walls that the snakes invented just kind of came into that focus a little bit. I don't know.
No, it did not, because the walls and the environmental walls were done over 100 years ago. So that happened way after when Mr. Big came along. I mean, Mr. Big must be like what in his like 50s?
That's what I'm saying. It creates a continuity error, because in the short that you and I saw in Zootopia Plus, it sort of insinuates that Mr. Big is the reason why people can now get more involved in living in Zootopia, because they didn't have their areas before. Everyone had to operate within this one environment.
Well, but, in that particular area, yes, but not the desert area, not the swamp area. Not those areas. That's just the city that.
Okay, well, I'll accept that if that's the explanation. But anyway, the Lynx, said, obviously effectively stole the patent for the technology and have taken credit for it ever since, and therefore that's the reason why they're the big wigs in the Zootopia society. And so a snake comes in to clear his family's name because they've been framed for the murders of one of the housekeepers, in that Lynx residence, and so it's basically they use that as justification to basically banish every single snake away from Zootopia, and they've been living, away from Zootopia ever since.
Yeah, and that explains on why in the first movie you only saw mammals, you never saw reptiles.
Yeah, exactly, and apparently the rumors are true. We're going to be getting birds in the third movie.
Yes, we are.
That's the understanding of it, but I mean, obviously everything's subject to change, aren't they?
No, I mean, well, we didn't see this because we had to head out afterwards, but there is a post-credits moment where...
Oh, are you kidding me? We walked out the post-credits again.
We did.
Oh, I'm so sorry, everybody.
Yeah.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's nothing to see. From what I was able to read, it's just that you have a moment where Judy is looking at her carrot recorder, and then she puts it down, and then by the window you get to see a feather flying, landing towards where the carrot recorder was. So, yeah,
okay.
they're hinting they're hinting that Zootopia 3 is going to be focusing on birds this time.
Well, I'm glad they left that as a post-credits. Could you imagine if this movie failed and they left in in the Zootopia 3 you're going to get birds, and then it was like, well, we didn't do enough of the box office, so sorry.
Oh no, that's an understatement. This movie made over $1.4 billion.
Yeah, and by the way, for all you Disney fans out there who are complaining the fact that Disney don't make original movies anymore, you're the problem because you went and saw this movie. By the way, mind you, I've said my piece about the Disney sequels, and so I'm really glad that they're starting to kind of bring these in because that's going to bring everybody back,
right?
But to the movie theater. But excuse me. But the problem that we got is that obviously original movies are going to suffer, out of this. But I don't think anyone's going to complain. All the Zootopia fans who've been starved of Zootopia content are not going to complain about that, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, case in point, Elio did not do very well. And the reason why, listen to our Pix Mix discussion about Elio. But yeah, I mean, it came out at a pretty awkward time where the Lilo and Stitch remake came out around the same time, and then also there was all of the news reports about the controversial behind the scenes things that were happening in the making of Elio. And then we have Zootopia 2, and yeah, I mean, this and the Lilo and Stitch remake are the reasons why Disney is making a lot of money this year.
Yeah. So we obviously get to the point with Zootopia. I mean, going back to the story, that now is a case of that, Nick and Judy have now ended up on the other side of the law, effectively, because, obviously there's some shenanigans that happen at the party that, the Lynx's host, and so they end up with the snake coming in to try and steal the book that has the real story inside of it, and so they end up stealing the book along with the snake, and now all of a sudden they're now prime suspects in effectively an attempted murder case.
Yeah.
And so now it's funny because Judy is now because at one point Judy dragged Nick into trying to solve the case with the predators going wild, and now Nick's kind of dragged Judy into the opposite direction. Now they're in the underworld, and now they have to somehow survive on the other side of the law, effectively. And so Nick ends up being the leader of this sort of kind of a situation, really, rather than Judy.
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool. It's kind of oh hey, now we're going to the reverse. So interesting that they're going to go in Zootopia 3 then, if that's going to be the case. What's going to happen there? Maybe they're going to both be front and center, taking command.
Well, yeah, I mean, I knew from the very beginning that there was going to be more Zootopia stuff, because if you ever seen the art book of Zootopia book, there was a lot of things that they wanted to include in the movie, but was cut due to time constraints. There were a lot of different worlds and a lot of different characters that were supposed to be in there. So, I mean, it's not too surprising that that
wasn't a guarantee we're going to get more stuff.
That's true, yeah. That wasn't a guarantee, but I can see where...
there's loads of art books being released for stuff, and, no more sequels or any, even any specials or shorts or anything. They've come from, other products.
Fair enough.
So,
But, yeah, I knew that there was a lot of potential for a sequel for Zootopia, especially since there was a lot more places they could have gone to, a lot more characters they could have met up with. And yeah, in this case, we have, the reptile community that we've never seen before in the original series, and new characters to introduce. I mean, we talked about the snake, whose name is Gary. And yeah,
I love how his name is Gary the Snake.
Yeah, Gary.
And then you realize his name is actually the snake. Yeah, he's Gary but it's not it's Gary the Snake.
Yes.
So I thought that was hilarious how they basically said that. And then they meet up with the Wilde conspiracy theorist, and I got to be honest with you, I don't really like this character all that much. She just seems crazy.
Well, I mean, yeah, of course she's crazy.
I mean, we've had this. I just feel like we've had this character so many times. I think in animated movies, here's the crazy conspiratorial character that believes everything. Like we've had that since Over the Hedge, effectively. So what we've had here with this character isn't really anything new.
Well, that's true, but at least she's actually helpful in the plot because Nibbles Maplestick, that's the name of the character. Yeah. She actually helps out Nick and Judy go throughout the swampy areas where the reptiles are, just so that she can be able to, just so that they can be able to find out more information about the book.
That's true.
And and then you have the scene in which she takes him over to Jesus, who is a basilisk, who's voiced by Danny Trejo.
Oh my God! I tell you what, I've never had. Danny Trejo has always been, with the exception of a couple of times, he's always been cast as the bad guy who gets it in the end. This is one of the very few times when Danny Trejo has ended up in a movie where he's not the bad guy, the main bad guy of the movie, and he's not going to get his ass kicked, and he's not going to die. So, hey, this is a rarity in regards to all of that. I mean, to be fair, he has paid. People were going to say, he's been paid in Muppets Most Wanted, he was mentioned before, but that was a cameo. It wasn't actually, and it was just a celebrities cameo in Muppets movies, so that doesn't really count.
Anyway, but yeah, so Jesus basically tells Nick and Judy that the book was actually done by the snakes, and that only a certain snake can be able to see the truth behind the book. And the book contains the map of all the parts of Zootopia, but there is a hidden section of Zootopia where the reptiles once lived. And
by the way, I'm glad that Danny Trejo did this because the way he makes it sound is really, really cool. He should explain every other lore, in the underground. That should be his thing. I want him to do more of that. I hope he comes back to Zootopia 3.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Anyway, but so that's why they need to find Gary, because Gary is the type of snake who can be able to see through his eyes on the secret city where the snakes used to live over hundreds of years ago.
He's sort of like, what's the item in The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time that makes you see? It's like, it's not called the Eye of Truth. It's... it's apology. I think someone's going to explain to me in the comment section below what it's called, but I'll have a look before after I'm done. But I just think that the fact that he has this ability to see things that other people cannot see, it's such an amazing thing to add to the plot. Like he can just see past in the book, the way it's supposed to be written, what's been erased, and it's just that's such a cool moment when you get to that point.
Yeah,
it's like, wow, look at that.
Yeah,
so,
yeah, and also another character in the mix is Ebenezer Lynxley, who is the forgotten and basically castaway son of the Lynxley family.
And you'll find out why when you get towards the end of the movie, because good grief, the literal stab, and it's not even a literal stab in the back, it's a stab in the neck, really. But so he comes across this is why a really well written well-written betray character, because you can sympathize with him because he's isolated out in the family. He feels that where what they're doing is completely and utterly wrong. But then you realize that he's just a backstabbing lynx, and he effectively this is the thing I was critical of when they did the massive reveal of Lynxley, because I thought if they'd if you took the snake venom and then stabbed it in literally stabbed it in Judy's back, that would have had more symbolism, I think, rather than sticking it in her neck. And by the way, that's still a jarring thing to put in it's a Disney movie. You just sticks effectively a taser sort of kind of thing into her neck. I know it's a snake contraption to inject the poison and but it would have been more symbolic, I think, if they put it in her back.
Yeah,
and also a bit less jarring as well, and they stuck it in her neck. Grief.
I mean, the reason why is because Paubert wanted to make it look like Gary was the one who bit Judy in the neck.
Yeah. That's true, but so by the way, that whole thing is I love that where Judy is still not stopping, even though she's filled with snake venom, and and including she gives Gary the ability to also believe in itself, and so he wraps himself around Judy to warm himself back up again after being frozen, and that whole thing is just so amazing. And then you got the struggle between Nick and Kingsley on the top of the tower, and that's quite gripping as well, because it's like, oh god, they're both gonna fall, and then you find out that Nick will then step up to the mark, and he's not going to take the easy way out. He's going to fight for himself, and that's a symbolic moment as well.
Yeah.
And then you get to the point where Nick and Judy are together, and they are admitting their faults and admitting what's wrong with them and how they're going to rectify themselves. And I've got to be honest with you, I wonder if they did that on purpose, because they're still not together as a couple, and I wonder if they were doing that to test the waters to see if the shipping will continue in the Zootopia fandom, because I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people out there who ship Nick and Judy.
Yeah,
and it makes you wonder if they're teasing something for the third movie.
I mean, we saw Return of Zootopia, the fan film, and that's the whole point of the movie was, would Judy and Nick work as a couple?
Yeah, exactly. And so, mind you, I think we'll talk about Return to Zootopia at some point. I mean, who knows, mate? Tell you what, in the comment section below, even though we talked about Zootopia 2 first and sort of ruined the continuity of this, I mean, do you want us to continue talking about Zootopia? And if you want us to continue talking about that, cover the first movie, Zootopia Plus, and Return to Zootopia, please, talk in the comment section below and let us know if you want us to continue the Zootopia stuff. Because, if you don't want to wait until Zootopia 3, we'll have a look and see what else we can do.
Yeah, and we don't even know when it's going to come out. I mean, it could be another 8 to 10 years for all we know.
Well, I hope not, because I think, given the fact that, there's a $1.4 billion on the table right now, I think, Zootopia 3 could potentially, garner some more cash for them. And, I think they'll be wanting to get that out sooner rather than later, really.
Yeah, that's true, because when was the last time that Disney was able to make that kind of money? I mean, besides...
Not for a while.
I mean, well, okay, I scratched that. Moana 2 made, that amount of money.
Yeah, I think that's another sequel movie, and so, I think, on top of that, I think that's going to be something for Disney as well. Like, how more sequels can they release until they're kind of like, yeah, we know this is just a gimmick, and we don't want to see any more sequels anymore. We don't want to see Toy Story 10. I mean, we're tired now. Please stop.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a full circle moment all over again, where people were so sick and tired of the direct-to-video Disney sequels of the 90s and 2000s. So now people are going to be complaining about...
To be fair, though, I don't compare it to the Disney direct-to-DVD sequels, because at least with the direct-to-DVD sequels, the reason why people got sick of them is because they're just so low budget, and effectively they were just Disney Toon, sort of like, what you watch on television.
Yeah.
There was no, with the exception of two, which was Cinderella 3 and, The Lion King 1.5, I don't think the rest of them are worth your time. I really don't. I do urge people to go watch Cinderella 3 and watch The Lion King 1.5. I do think they're worth watching.
Well, I mean, I did talk about a couple of them that are worth checking out. You can check out the Disney Toon Studios podcast I did with Chris many years ago.
Yeah, and I don't know. I'm the opposite of any of that. I think those are the only two movies that are worth watching.
Well, not necessarily, because we talked about a Goofy movie, and that is technically a Disney Toon Studio movie.
No, well, that got released in theaters, didn't it?
Yes.
And it became a cult classic.
Yeah.
Name me another, besides The Lion King 1.5 and Cinderella 3, name me one of those direct-to-DVD movies that became a cult classic. None of them.
Right. Well, I mean, I do know people who like them, but as for cult classic, I mean, I guess that's
yeah. And so anyway, but the point I'm making is that the reason why I think these sequels are still going to be with us forever and a day, because there's effort actually being put into them, and they make money. So that's the reason why Disney is going to continue making them, because they make money. Yeah. And this is what this game is. It's about making money on top of making some good content. So.
Yeah, that's true. And some of their original movies haven't really done that in a while. And I understand that it was during the pandemic in which Raya the Last Dragon and Encanto met that similar fate. But yeah, Strange World and Wish did not have an excuse.
Yeah, exactly. And anyway, we're getting kind of off topic a little bit here. I think let's get back to Zootopia.
Yeah, let's continue.
I feel like, in regards to, this being a necessary sequel, I think it is because, one, it continues the Nick and Judy relationship and the story. Well, they're not together yet.
No.
They're just, a buddy couple. And now it's, I think it's actually answered the question of like, well, now that they've done this, what are they going to do next? And then they've actually set up probably like, the next couple of movies, if they are going to do like an entire series of Zootopia movies, or maybe even a TV series starring Nick and Judy, that they've accidentally released hundreds of criminals into Zootopia, and now they've got to go round them up. So, maybe they've actually set up for a TV series, maybe, or maybe even set up for like, the next movie to round up all the bad guys.
I mean, yeah, the first one that they're going after is Bellwether.
Yeah, exactly. And actually, I think they kind of they sort of like insinuated that they've already nabbed her, because they nabbed her her at the airport.
Yeah.
Maybe, unless that's where they're going to continue Zootopia 3 from. It's kind of like it continues right after that, and they're going to go chase Bellwether, and then they're going to have to go, like, where is it that she was going to go to?
She was going to go to literally the same location that they were going to run off to in the first place.
Oh, okay, then, well, yeah, I guess they're going to go there and go hunt her down, I guess.
Yeah.
And, yeah, I tell you what, if that's going to be Zootopia 3, that's going to be a cool movie. And then, so basically they set up all the necessary components, I think, great music, great characters,
let's talk about the music. So Gazelle is back, and this time she has a new song called Zoo, and yeah, I mean, how do you compare this to Try Everything?
I think Try Everything, I think it's going to be hard to kind of like, it's sort of like, when Frozen did Let It Go, and then the second movie, Into the Unknown, and it's real, I mean, they tried their hardest to try and get into the unknown as like into the minds of kids, but Let It Go is such an iconic theme that, and it's been praised so many times, and it's had a long-lasting, effect in a couple of years, sort of kind of like what Golden's going to be like, for K-pop Demon Hunters. I think we're going to be singing Golden, I think, for a long time until the next K-pop Demon Hunters movie comes out. But I think with Zoo, I think it's. I don't know, like, it doesn't kind of, like, stick, I think, as much as Try Everything does. And that's no, knock on Shakira, and that's no knock on the people who wrote the music for Zootopia. The music in this movie, by the way, is great. I love the music when they talk about the snakes and the history and everything like that. It really, by the way, the credits music, really puts you in the mood as well. Like, when you're walking out the theater, that was well done.
Yeah.
And so, I think all of that, I think, was very well done in regards to that. However, if you ask me, is Try Everything going to be, superseded by, this track? I've got to be honest with you, I don't think it will. I think Try Everything, I think, will continue to be the anthem for Zootopia, I think, for a long time.
Yeah, I do agree. And that's not to say that Zoo was a bad song. I mean, it isn't
a bad song.
It's a very catchy song.
Yeah, but it's just not as good as Try Everything, in my opinion. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree.
But it's funny because Shakira actually gets, a bit of more screen time in this movie compared to when she was in the other one. In the other one, she was kind of like, part of like, the montages. But in this, like, they put her in the middle of the action, which is cool.
Yeah, she was in the party where she was singing the song, and also when they were in the desert area trying to go over to the electric company so they can be able to turn on the light to find out where the Snake City was. She was there to actually help out Gary and Judy escape while the police were chasing after her. So she was helpful for that, and then she comes back again for the concert where she sings Zoo once again.
Yeah, and I probably imagine all the charges have been dropped for assaulting a police officer, but yeah, she's famous. She doesn't go to jail. All right, we're definitely moving on. So yeah, I think with Giselle though, I think what they should have done is. I think they should have probably they've obviously given her more screen time in this, which I think is really good because Shakira is quite supportive of Zootopia. But the one thing I think would have been better is that maybe one of these days, that, I don't know if they'll either do it as a TV special, or if they'll probably even do it as the third movie. Maybe give her, like, a bit more involvement. I really thought that, given how popular she is as a character, I really thought that, she was going to be the subject of this movie. The fact that, maybe she's been threatened by an obsessed fan, and, maybe that's what the snake was going to be, and then Nick and Judy were basically going to have to protect her and make sure nothing happened to her.
Right.
And so, that, but I don't know, I guess they decided that, she continues kind of like being, the songstress, I guess you could say, of the movie, and maybe we'll continue being that when we get into other Zootopia content. But, I think a lot of people wouldn't be too disappointed if they said, oh, hey, Shakira's going to be, the focus of one movie. I think people actually be very happy with that.
Sure.
But I don't know.
Yeah, let's talk about the new mayor in this movie. So, this is the third mayor in this line of movies that we've seen in Zootopia and Zootopia 2. We have Brian Windancer.
Yeah, and it's sort of insinuated that he's basically been appointed basically by this Lynx family
he
too.
Has been.
Yeah, and so which is interesting because once again it plays into the narrative, like these billionaires and like all these powerful people basically control what goes on in Zootopia, and
that's literally what the message is.
Yeah,
they literally control everything. They control all of Tundra Town.
Control everything.
Yeah, they control Tundra Town. They have a lot of money. They have a lot of power, a lot of history, and they're able to take advantage of the government power. They're able to take advantage of the land itself, like the marshland that the snakes and the other reptiles were living in was going to be completely destroyed, and it was going to be demolished so that they can be able to make room for more land for the lynxes, because the lynxes depend on living in a cold environment.
Yeah, and again, it's like you can see the great thing also about Zootopia 2 is that just the world building that's going on, like, the power, the corruption, like, the way that the Zootopia is set up, and all, like, it's not as great as when Judy first kind of like jumped into it, like, there are severe problems, severe corruption problems that are going on in this city, and I mean, like, it'd be interesting if they continued going down that route of story with Zootopia. I mean, can you see it getting gritty? I mean, like, it was pretty gritty when we got towards the end of the movie. It definitely was. So it makes you wonder. I mean, will they dare go into, into Touchstone territory maybe, and like, maybe like we'll make it more, because at the end of the day, the Zootopia fans are just going to get older. They're not going to get younger. Yeah. So like maybe that's what they might do.
Yeah, that's the thing that we've been noticing in movies over the past few years, in which that the smarter and the more complex movies are generating to a series of fans as they get older. Like, you start off in Toy Story where Andy's a little kid, then you go over to Toy Story 3 where he is now going to college, and it grows up with its audience. And there's been a lot of praise because of that, and there have been a little bit more there's been a lot more movies that have been implementing that. And it's kind of funny because I remember when Despicable Me 4 came out, and a lot of people were criticizing it, saying, this movie would be so much better if the girls were to grow up alongside with us as the viewers, when they started off as like little kids, when they were adopted by the orphanage, and then, it should have been the case in which they would have grown up.
Well, let's keep this in mind, everybody. This is Illumination Studios, and I get that they produce, some of people's favorites, but at the end of the day, they're just known for basically making mediocre movies. And like in the, look at Migration, look at outside of everything besides Despicable Me and Minions
and Sing.
And Sing, like, well, even Sing is pretty mediocre when you think about it. Like it went past a little bit past beyond my expectations when I watched it for the first time. But I've got to be honest with you, after watching it, it doesn't make me feel infused to go like out of my way to go watch Sing 2.
Okay, fair enough.
I mean, like so that's where Illumination is right now. They just make safe, very average movies, and even with the Super Mario Brothers movie, I said its only goal, after the bad taste that was left in our mouths in the 90s with the last Mario Brothers movie, the only thing that this thing needed to do was basically be a Super Mario Brothers movie and be nothing else. I wasn't expected to like go and win every single Oscar category. I was expected to kind of just do what exactly it says on the tin, and it did that.
Yeah.
And it didn't need to go anything further than that. Now the Super Mario Galaxy movie is going to be a different thing, but mind you, this is not Arun and Patricia right now, where this is a Zootopia 2 review, so yeah. We'll get into that hopefully next year when we finally bring back Arun and Patricia. But going back to Zootopia, I mean, like, the idea it will be is that if they can push the boundary a little bit more with the Zootopia fans, make it a little bit more adult, maybe make it so it doesn't move away too much from like the family entertainment, but kind of like gives you something that's kind of like pretty dark at the same time, and like say, oh wow, this is dangerous, this is our heroes are like in massive peril and they need to do something like this. And don't get me wrong, Zootopia 2 definitely does that. Yeah. But can they go one step further in Zootopia 3 maybe, like, and see how far that goes?
In the first movie, it was talking about racism and about how minorities were treated. And in this one, it's about corruption with a lot of, factors such as urban renewal and gentrification and billionaires being the ones who control everything. And so, it does deliver a lot on the social commentary. And who knows, maybe they will deliver that in the third movie, because as mentioned before, the movie's going to be about birds. So, where have the birds been this entire time? So, that'll be interesting to see if they continue in this direction.
And hopefully the Zootopia 3 will not be for the birds.
Oh, anyway, okay, yeah.
I've missed this podcast. Anyway, so I think we talked about the music. We talk about, by the way, I would talk about the animation in this movie, but I got to be honest with you. I mean, like, it's sort of like it's just Zootopia. I mean, like it probably is a lot more brighter and it probably is a lot more flush, but I mean, like, it doesn't really, I mean, it definitely fits into, the last movie, and so they definitely, the one movie definitely blends into the other, and so there's not, I wouldn't say there's like a technical improvement, I would just say that they've done more possibilities with it.
All right.
Like, you see water, you see sand, you see, like, snow, and, so you get to see a bit more, elements, obviously at play here, and like, with the animation that they go with that, so I guess you could say that's a technical improvement in that regard, but, I mean, it's not much, I would say. I mean, like, Pixar's been doing this for years.
Yeah, fair enough. Let's talk about the callbacks. Like, all the little references and Easter eggs and callbacks were just hilarious.
There's a lot of Ratatouille references in this movie, which is quite surprising because they have like a fat Remy that's obviously as the technical support for like the machines that aren't working, and then finally they have a lion who like has a toque on his head, and then when they rush past him, all of a sudden his toque falls off, and there's another rat that's controlling the lion on it, and he gets on just points and says, "I knew it." It's like, that was a good callback to that. And I mean, funny enough, like the one thing I thought they would have called back to was probably the Lion King. I would have thought of Zootopia is a perfect movie to make Lion King references. I don't understand why they never did it.
Yeah, they did references for several other movies, The Shining, Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah,
they even reference Hungry Hungry Hippos.
Oh yeah, Hungry Hippos, and there was a lot of references in there. I think count the references if you can.
Yeah, spot the references.
Yeah, and but I think the one thing also that's quite good is the casting, because Danny Trejo, of course, is going to play the Jesus in that he fit that to a T.
Yeah.
And obviously Shakira playing Gazelle again. Obviously she fits that character perfectly, as we all know, because she can do the song, and she can do all the characteristics with her as well. And there's not one person I would say has been miscast in this movie at all.
No, they all fit really well.
Even Gary the Snake is, he's a bit high for my liking, really, in regards to his vocals, but he still fits the narrative, and he still fits this I would say this innocence conviction, I guess you could say, of the way that he delivers. So everybody here I feel like has done an incredible job. So no problems with the voice acting whatsoever.
No, they all do fantastically, and once again, Ke Huy Quan is knocking it out of the park with all the roles he's been in over the past few years. I mean, like ever since after he was done with movies such as Goonies and Indiana Jones and The Temple of Doom, when he decided to retire from acting, and then he came back for Everything Everywhere All at Once. He's been on a roll. Kung Fu Panda 4, then he was in Zootopia 2. He was on this movie. He's been in so many movies over the past few years, and a lot of them have been great. And so, you know what? Good for him for knowing the right time in which to come back to doing movies again.
I think it was the fact that there was some things that inspired him to, obviously, put the headset back on again. But and it's good for him for doing that. Mm-hmm. And so I think, but with in regards to the rest of the voice actors in this, I think they've done an incredible job, and I'm looking forward to Zootopia 3 when they all come back.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it too, and I'm looking forward to seeing what new direction they're able to pull into this movie. And if they ever do like a Zootopia Plus Season 2, where we get to see additional behind the scenes things with the additional characters that we got to know of, like Gary the Snake and the Lynxley family and Jesus, and I mean, I know that you don't like this character, but I would have liked to have seen like more crazy videos from Nibbles. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if we got to see like more behind the scenes
I'm not against Nibbles if it's like she's there in the background, and but it'd be interesting to see if they actually decided to bring her back into. I mean, the idea is that she's an outsider, so therefore that's the reason why she ended up getting involved in Nick and Judy's adventure, because that's where they were at the time.
Yeah.
Whether they'd actually be she would be anything further than that, I mean, I'd be very surprised if she would be.
I wouldn't be surprised if one of the episodes of Season 2 would be about the Zebros.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think with other characters, I mean, obviously they're part of the ZPD Police Department, aren't they? So I think anybody who's part of ZPD, unless they decide to write them out for some awkward reason, I mean, I think they're going to be there for forever and a day, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, it's because Bogo's been now in 2 movies, but I mean, his character arc hasn't really evolved any further from, being sort of skeptical, but then sort of liking Judy at the same time, and, they pretty much had to write him out of the main portion of the the movie, because obviously, it would have had a bit of a problem if he'd still been like, conscious, during the whole, when Nick and Judy, prime suspects thing. And so, like, obviously they need to, move him out of the way. But, I mean, like, it makes me wonder, like, will he decide to retire in the third movie? Will he decide that, enough's enough? Or will he continue just being, like, the chief? So, I mean, I think out of all the characters that I think that have gone through character evolution of this, I think Bogo's probably been like the one who's been probably going through the least.
Well, it makes a lot of sense because, he was unconscious when he got bitten by, unintentionally bitten by Gary. So, I mean, it was going to be hard to develop his character. I mean,
but the fact is that they have to move, in order for the sake of the story, they have to move him out of the way.
Yeah.
And it makes you wonder, like, will he be out of the way for, like, for the foreseeable future?
Yeah, who knows? I mean...
And then they get a new chief. And, like, that's going to be some shenanigans.
Oh, yeah. I wonder who the new chief would be if Bogo's not going to be there anymore.
Yeah, like, maybe that might be the subject of the third movie, maybe. Like, Bogo's retired and now this new chief's moved in, and, like, he's not all, as... it could be like Fillmore. Like, remember when he moved over to, like, in Fillmore, where he moved over to to meet with his old friend, and, and then you find out that the patrol sheriff's, like, massively corrupt. Mm-hmm. So maybe it could be that situation, maybe.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just have to say that if you were one of those people who was very hesitant on checking out Zootopia 2 because of Disney's recent controversial things that they've done and some of the movies that haven't been all that great, you should definitely check it out. It's really well done.
This is one of the very few times I would definitely say, like, Disney is right-footed, and you definitely should check this out, because, I mean, obviously we can't say that for very many other things that Disney's done recently.
Yeah, I mean, listen to our podcast on Strange World, Wish, and Moana 2. You can
listen to Lightyear. Like, I think out of all the things that Disney have served up, like in the modern times, like there's only other times where I feel like I've been massively disappointed. I think the other time was probably Cars 2.
Yeah. Yeah, so, I mean, that just goes to show you that I'm hoping that Disney would move over to the right direction on making a lot of these great projects, but, for every great step that they do, they take a massive step back, which, we'll talk about that when we get to Arun and Patricia. Trust me, I have a lot to say about their decision to buy AI.
Yeah. But besides that, I mean, like, thank you very much for checking out our review of Zootopia 2. I mean, I think we should give it a score, don't you think?
Yeah, sure. So,
I'll definitely say this. I mean, like, good grief. How can we not say, I mean, great, the story I think is great, the characters I think are great, the sound I definitely think is great. It's a really great sequel. It's up there with, dare I say, it's up there with Toy Story 2, and it's up there with Shrek 2 in regards to, like, anticipated sequel, and it definitely delivered. I mean, I'm going to say 10.
Yeah.
I'm going to say 10. Like, I know some people think I'm probably crazy because there are some things that I would say are different. I said at the very beginning, I feel like I would have tweaked the story a little bit, but I mean, like, it's not consequential to, like, what proceeded afterwards. So, I mean, like, I would say, if it's not 9.5, it's definitely a 10.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, and I do agree because, I mean, I can't find any fault to it that's not being a nitpicker. Like, I really enjoyed the story. The characters are on point. The voice acting is great. The music is great. And once again, it delivers hard on the social commentary that the first movie did, and it's able to expand the world, and I can't really find any faults with it. I'm sorry.
For a long time I said, what's been the better sequel, Toy Story 2 or Shrek 2? And now we've got a three-way. We've got basically, what's the better sequel? Is it Shrek 2, Toy Story 2, or Zootopia 2?
Maybe that'll be another podcast down the line.
It probably will be. I mean, like, good grief, where DreamWorks, Pixar, and Disney themselves all, were muscling in, saying, we can make the better sequel.
Right. Yeah. So 10 out of 10.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, everyone. Well, thank you so much for listening to our podcast about Zootopia 2. So let us know in the comments below about your thoughts on Zootopia 2. Did you like it? Did you not like it? What were your favorite moments? And do you want us to cover Zootopia, Zootopia Plus, and Return to Zootopia that we wanted to do originally, but wasn't able to do due to audio, constraints?
Basically, just technical difficulties and, health issues.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so until then, everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. Hope to see you around soon, and take care.
Take care, and we apologize that this is the only video where you get to see our lovely Christmas tree and our lovely, family, crystal ball. So,
all right.
yeah.
Until then, everyone, take care.
Bye-bye. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.